internet fraud. It's an extremely important topic that everyone needs to be aware of. The scammers will do anything to get your money.
If you're passionate about Basset hounds, this podcast is for you.
This is WOEBGON, the Basset Hound podcast. I'm your host, Don Bullock. Hi there, and welcome to WOEBGON, the Basset Hound podcast. This is episode 10. I'm your host, Don Bullock. I hope you've been enjoying hearing about how we got started with Basset Hounds starting back in 1977 and our journey to show them and to start our breeding efforts in episodes 1 through 9, as well as information I've shared about the breed and its history in those episodes. In this episode, I plan to deviate away from my usual format. I thought this would be a good spot to break away from talking about our dogs and instead talk about a very important topic, internet fraud. It's an extremely important topic that everyone needs to be aware of. The idea of this episode came from a friend who's a longtime and reputable breeder of Basset Hounds. But before any of you are interested in rescue, click away. I'll be sharing information on rescue scams too. Just about everything I say about fraudulent breeders carries over to rescue. The scammers will do anything to get your money. The idea for this episode came from a post from a friend on Facebook. That friend had just whelped a litter of 10 Basset Hound puppies. And yes, they're all really healthy and doing well from what I understand. But two people that contacted him about that litter told them they had been scammed by the same Basset Hound breeder. And my friend even shared on Facebook what that website was that they were scammed on and gave information to those of us who follow him on Facebook and are his friends what to look out for and let us know that that was a scam that was out there. Well, I'm actually looking at that website over here on my other monitor down here, and it's really interesting to look at that website. It's an internet breeder, supposedly, who allegedly scammed those two people. Before going any further, I need to let you know that this is all alleged. It's not proven to be true. I need to make it clear to all of you that I'm not sharing any names of people or the website information. These scams allegedly happened. In our country, people are assumed to be innocent until they're found guilty in a court of law. My initial response from looking at this website is, wow, it's really in front of you. Practically everywhere you look, it says available puppies, and there's a link that you can click on that says that. It's plastered all over the website. Those links take you to a page of Basset Hound puppy pictures. There's a whole bunch of them lined up on the page with their names and a little information about them, but that page has a lot of issues and hints of fraud that I'll get to later in this episode. There's also some information here that says contact us, and it's a pertinent choice in their menu at the top of the page. And it's simply a form where you can submit questions. There's no information about who us is, nor where they're located. Nowhere on this website does it state any personal or location information. People have no idea who they're contacting, nor where they're located, nor names of the breeders. None of that information is available anywhere on the website. They say on the website, please take a look around our website and learn more about us and about our Bassets. But there's no information other than puppy photos. There's very few photos of anything else. They have pictures supposedly of their vet examining one of the puppies, but even that is questionable. Nothing is said or shown in relation to the bassets they breed, nor the pedigrees that they use. Reputable breeders should show photos of their bassets and them with their bassets, but none of that is available on this website. So I'll be getting more into detail on all of those kinds of issues that come up in fraudulent websites, but obviously this one's one. One of the things that's really, to me, is really kind of comical, but it's there. It says, who we are, dash, reputable breeders. They want people to see that right up front, but they still don't tell who they are. They claim, quote, kennel name, they use their kennel name, has over 3 decades of experience raising, training, and competing Basset hounds for sale, end quote. What does that mean? Does that say anything? Nowhere on their website do they show anything about raising the Basset hounds, training the Basset hounds, or especially competing with the Basset hounds. There's none of that on this website. This is possibly created by artificial intelligence. Now, I remember way back in my early episodes, I warned people about artificial intelligence being used on the internet. And I think this is a really good example of that because what they just said doesn't make any sense. It's very typical of AI-generated text. Another questionable statement that they have is, quote, our primary goal with each breeding program is to improve the breed in terms of health, structure, and overall breed type according to the breed standard before the Bassets are rehomed and adopted by new owners, end quote. Does that make any sense to you guys? It certainly doesn't make any sense to me. Yes, it has all those real good words in there and statements in there that should be on a website for a reputable breeder, but it doesn't make any sense. This is certainly created by artificial intelligence. It has all the right words, but it doesn't actually say anything. Just one more quote so you'll get more of the idea. This is a quote from the website. Quote, most commonly kept as pets, Bassets tend to display discernment of strangers and become protective of their owners and property. Some owners have attributed cat-like personality to Bassets. We offer the most affordable Basset Hound puppies for adoption. This breed of dog has many strong, loyal bonds with friends and family, but the Basset dog can, it's hard to read it, but the Basset dog can be overly fond of one or two main family members. After accepting to rehome a Basset Hound puppy, we can meet up or ship the puppy by flight to your preferred location. Really? Does that make sense to you? Obviously, again, artificial intelligence has put in the right words, but it doesn't make any sense. And then it says meet up or ship by flight? These are huge red flags. Obviously, they don't allow people to pick up a dog at their place of business if they have one. That's a huge red flag. If breeders don't allow you to come to their place, something is wrong. They're going to meet you someplace or they're going to fly it to you. Websites like this abound on the internet today. In this episode, I'll be saying more about this website and others to help you avoid getting scammed. Later in this episode, I'll give you information on a website that lists websites that are allegedly scams. While the website example I'm using for this podcast episode is supposedly from the United States, other countries have the same problem. Since scammers don't even live here, they can and do set up scams in other countries. I've seen evidence of them in many different countries. In fact, one of the reports that I read said that many of these scammers are located somewhere in Africa. Just to make it clear again, much of what I say in this episode is alleged to be true unless I say otherwise. So we don't know for sure whether these people have been prosecuted or found guilty in a court of law, so we have to be careful what I say and what I show on the video form. Before I go any farther, I'd like to state that getting a dog, whether it's from a breeder or a rescue, can be a highly emotional experience. Many people want a dog so badly that they don't approach the acquisition with a clear mind and aren't attuned to the possibility of being scammed. The scammers know that and do everything possible to use that to their advantage. I'll be the first to say that finding a puppy, especially a Basset Hound, is not easy. Far too many of our good breeders have either retired from breeding or have passed away. Those who are around today often get overwhelmed with requests for puppies. I know that we do, and we're not breeding anymore. In episode 3, I described ways for finding a reputable, responsible breeder and highly recommend anyone looking for a dog of any breed check out that podcast episode. I also talked about where to find information on legitimate Basset Hound rescue groups in episode 9. Anyone who is considering getting a Basset Hound through rescue is encouraged to listen to that episode. Finding a breeder or rescue organization through the internet is not something I recommend. Having said that, I know many people use the internet to find dogs, and it's full of scammers like the website I've been talking about. Just because I'm looking at that website that claims to sell puppies doesn't mean that the same scam doesn't exist in rescue. In fact, according to the research, fraudulent rescue websites are multiplying rapidly because it's become more popular and even politically correct to rescue and not buy a dog. The scammers have caught on to that and are responding by creating rescue scams. Most of what I say about fraudulent breeders also can be carried over to fraudulent rescue websites. For those of you watching the video version of this podcast, you'll notice I've added some different viewing angles, and hopefully they're providing some variety to the podcast. But in those views from behind me, I do not have the website over here on my screen that's next to me. I was sure someone out there would take a screenshot and try to figure out the name of the website. So in views like this one, or this view that you may be getting from the rear, I've removed the website in question from the screen that's over here. Photos used on websites like the one I've been looking at, in my opinion, are the first key to possible fraud. Puppy photos of any breed are easily available on the internet. A simple search can bring up a large number of those photos. It's easy for scammers to come up with perfect puppy photos. This, however, is often the easiest way to determine if a website is a possible scam. A scammer will usually place random photos on their website. None of them have been taken in the same location or even a similar location. They're just photos of puppies and usually don't even have people in the photo. Contrast that with a true reputable breeder who will do a lot of different things to show you that they're proud of their puppies. They'll publish many photos of the whole litter together. Some photos will show them with their mother and other puppies. They'll show all kinds of photos of the litter and specific puppies. There will be whole groups of these photos taken in the same location, like the photos I'm showing of one of our litters taken outside. Often reputable breeders will display photos of the whole litter in a show stack pose. All will be taken at the same location with the same person holding the Bassets. A scammer can't reproduce those photos without stealing them from somebody else. Obviously, that can and does happen. It can be easy for scammers to steal photos. Essentially, that's how they get their photos. A close friend had a litter of bloodhounds, for example. She posted photos of her litter on the internet for her friends to see. My friend wasn't selling them on the internet. She was just letting her friends see the pictures of her puppies that she was very proud of. One of her friends was searching for bloodhounds on the internet and discovered a fraudulent seller using my friend's photos. There on the internet, the fraudulent seller's website, there were many of the photos that my friend had posted on the internet. I'm not sure what happened, but it was a good lesson for all of us to learn. Back then, her friend just stumbled on those photos. Today, there's a tool to use to do a reverse search of any photos on the internet. If you suspect a fraudulent website, you can use Google to help. You can easily do a reverse image search on a PC or a Mac. It will work somewhat on phones and tablets, but it isn't as good as a desktop computer reverse search. The easiest way to make use of this is through the Google Chrome browser. It's the most popular web browser, so many of you already have it installed in your computer. I have to say, as a Mac user, I usually use Safari. I use Chrome for this purpose. Photographers can use this search feature to discover websites where sellers or other people have stolen their photos and are selling them without their permission. You can use the same search to see if a puppy photo or any other photo on the internet appears somewhere else on the internet. Here's how to do a Google reverse image search. First of all, you launch Chrome on your PC or Mac. Now, you can do it again on a phone or a tablet, but the search isn't quite as good. While you're on the internet with Google Chrome, select a photo you want to search. I'm using one on the home page of our website to show you how it works. Right-click on the photo you've chosen. That'll bring up a menu in a window on your computer. Select Search Image with Google. That will create a window on the right of your screen. In that window, you'll see the image that you search plus similar images that Google has found. At the very top are the words Find Image Source. Click on that button on your computer. The window will suddenly change and show you all the places where that image can be found on the internet. You can see that the photo from our website is only found on our website and nowhere else on the internet. Later, when we search photos from the website in question, we'll see otherwise. Now, you need to understand, however, that this doesn't always work. There are things that people can do to their photos to keep them from being searched. And I'm not going to mention all of those here. There's no need to let some scammers out there know all the tricks. Even if a few photos on the website can be reverse searched, you may have a better indication as to whether the website is a scam or not. Now, on the website that I've been talking about, here are some of the photos for those of you watching the video version that I found and all the instances where I found them someplace else. We'll start with this very cute picture of a litter of puppies. You can see all the different places that I found it. These are copies of the exact image. Yes, I have blocked out the websites and other information where I found them. I don't want to be sued by someone for giving you false information and implicating them in some kind of a fraud. So I'll do that with all of the upcoming images. Next is an actual advertisement for a puppy from this website. No, I'm not going to tell you what the website is, but I'll show you the results of the Google search for this photo. This is how many times it was found elsewhere on the internet. Now, if we zero in on those bottom two, this is where those came from. Again, this is the same photo. This is a website in Spanish that's selling the exact same puppy according to the photo. Here I've used Google Translate to translate the website into English. It clearly states that the puppy is for sale and you can text or call to get more information about this puppy. Elsewhere on the page it said Basset Hound in Zaragoza. I had no idea where that was, but it ended up saying that it was in Spain. So we have evidence here that the same puppy photo is being used both in the United States and Spain. Another interesting photo that I found on this website is this veterinarian with a Basset Hound. Here are the places that I found it on the internet. The first says Basset Hound mixed puppies for sale clearance and states 50% discount. The second one is the website that I've been talking about, and it says Basset Hound puppies for sale, Basset Hound breeder. Then the third one says miniature Basset Hound puppies sale, best sale. It offers Basset Hound puppies at a 57% discount. This website is in the United Kingdom based on the URL. And the last one on the page says long-haired Basset hounds for sale. So those all should tell you something about these scams. This is just a few of the photos from this particular website. Another friend who was looking for a Basset Hound puppy noticed she saw the same puppy photo on several different websites. Scammers have multiple websites or they work together with others. Obviously, my friend, unbeknownst to her until she asked me about it, found that these were scammers. The other main group of photos on this website are those of supposed buyers with their Bassets and a testimonial paragraph. Again, it's easy to steal these photos from the internet. On the website, it's obvious that they have done just that. They show the exact same photo of a lady and her puppy twice under these photos, and they're different names and different testimonials. Whoops! I'm amazed that no one has caught that, including those who've been scammed by this website. On top of that faux pas, at least some of the testimonials use very poor grammar. Another huge red flag. Now, this is one of those testimonials and the photo that goes with it. Yes, I blurred out the picture of the baby so that you can't see it, and I've crossed out the names of the kennel and the baby and the dog. Again, I have to be very careful what I show on this video. But it's clear here that we have a testimonial from someone and they're showing a picture of their baby and dog. So now we need to do a search for this photo. And here are the results of that search. So that photo showed up 12 different places on the internet. Now 2 belong to this website, so that means 10 other websites have this same photo. Now I need to say here that I didn't go to all those websites. In a way, that's too dangerous to do that. When I tried clicking on one of them, I got a danger warning from my computer, so I decided not to go any farther. Personally, I question any website that includes these testimonials. While I know some reputable breeders who use them, I always honored the privacy of the people who got our puppies. In my opinion, if I needed to publish testimonials, I was doing something wrong. If a prospective buyer wanted one, which rarely happened, I got the permission of one or more of our puppy buyers before providing the information about them. If they said that they would like to talk to a prospective buyer, I sent the phone numbers of both of them in an email and let the 2 of them talk all they wanted without me in the process. As for the scammer's location, it's never provided on the website. An online domain search gives their location as Luxembourg, according to WHOIS on the internet. Since that WHOIS search shows that the website is using a privacy service, it's impossible to find out their true location. The only information that service provides is when the website domain was created, November of 2022, and when it's been renewed, 2023 and 2024. Of course, this is very interesting because the website says, quote, over 3 decades raising, training, and competing Basset hounds. Remember that quote? This discrepancy between the creation of a website and when a breeder claims to have started breeding is a huge red flag. While there could be some reason for the discrepancy, it's still something that needs to be considered. Obviously, in the website I'm talking about, they claim 3 decades and the website's only been on the internet for 3 years. That's a huge discrepancy. Now, I have some breaking news that I just discovered. During a more recent check of WHOIS, I discovered a change in the website's location, or at least the location of whoever they're registering with. WHOIS says it's now located in San Mateo, California. While this in itself is not really unusual, the timing is rather unusual. It happened before their current hosting plan ends in November of this year. I think it's possible that someone reported them to their website hosting service and they had to switch their domain name and their website to another hosting service. Of course, this is only speculation on my part, but it's another thing to look out for. Another ploy that fraudulent breeders use is asking the buyer for their location prior to any other communication. This helps them add to the cost. One of my friends who lives in Kentucky was asking about a puppy from what turned out to be one of these scammers. She's someone who travels a lot and could afford to fly almost anywhere to pick up a puppy, but the scammer didn't know that. The breeder claimed to be in Texas, so that's quite a ways from her in Kentucky. But my friend said, "Oh, I'll come and pick up the dog at your kennel." And when she told the scammer that, the scammer immediately said, quote, "We don't do that," end quote. Immediately that alerted my friend to the possibility that she was dealing with a scam based on other factors that my friend was able to discover on their website that was an internet breeder that was in fact a scammer. Once they have the buyer's location, they claim to be too far away for the buyer to be able to come and pick up the puppy, meet somewhere, so it has to be shipped by air. Once they've established that they're too far away and the puppy must be flown to the buyer, they can start adding shipping costs. Some of these scammers claim to ship by air and others ship by ground. Obviously, the latter takes more time, especially over long distances. The website I'm looking at, for example, mentions flying the dog. They even state that they will do all the work arranged for the shipment. For most people, this sounds wonderful, but the website says nothing about the costs involved, nor does it provide any information on who does their shipping. According to my research, this is a tremendous problem area with these scammers. They have people emotionally involved and get excited about getting a new puppy, and then they start adding emergency costs. Of course, those interested in rescue only don't think this issue of shipping pertains to you. I've got news for you. Even so-called legitimate rescue groups ship dogs in from other places. They even ship in from other countries. This kind of fraud does happen to rescue groups as well. A common ploy is adding costs for a crate. Now, a crate that's fully acceptable by all airlines for a puppy should cost no more than $150. Most that would fit a Basset Hound puppy are less than that. I've personally used these crates in larger sizes when we've shipped our dogs from one place to another, especially when we've taken them to shows or when we've received a puppy from our friend in Florida. They are fully safe and secure. Reports from people who have been scammed often reported that they received an email stating that due to weather change, they must pay for a climate-controlled crate. It's been reported that many times this costs is an extra $900. One of my friends posted on Facebook that she talked to someone who had been scammed, and the crate cost was $1,500 extra. This seems to be a common scam that they use. First of all, the cargo holds on airlines that ship dogs are fully climate controlled. In fact, when we were shipping one of our girls, Bonnie, when we were flying to a dog show in Florida, we were bumped off our flight because there was an issue with the cargo hold's climate controlled system. Fortunately, the airline rerouted us by bumping some other people off another flight. All the airlines are very strict about shipping animals. They will not ship animals if the weather is either end of the flight is not within certain temperature ranges and that the temperature controls and the climate controls in their cargo holds are working fully. There's no exceptions to that. Airlines are very careful with pets that are being shipped and will not ship them if conditions could possibly harm them. While there's such a thing as a climate-controlled crate, they're not even required or even used by the airlines. In fact, other than one company who tried to sell them back in 2007, I can't find any such item on the market today. By the way, that crate was advertised for shipping purposes. It couldn't have been used to ship dogs, and most likely a reason it's no longer available because it had to be plugged in. Oh, you can't plug one in into the cargo hold of an airline. The advertised cost for that crate was $140, not $900. It only came in one size, too. There are two main choices for shipping puppies: a regular airline or an animal shipping business. Personally, we've used United, Delta, American, and Alaskan for shipping dogs with absolutely no issues. We used American and United when we shipped our dogs as baggage when we were going to dog shows. And we've used Alaska Airlines several times to ship dogs, once for breeding and twice our friends shipped dogs to us using Alaska Airlines. And they came with the dogs, so they were excess baggage for them. According to my recent research, 3 major airlines are currently shipping dogs as cargo: Allegiant Airlines, American Airlines, and Alaska Airlines. So the option of shipping dogs by an airline may not be possible. It's hard to say. This depends on where the breeder claims to be from and what's the closest airport to you. So how does one find and arrange for a pet transportation service instead of using an airline? According to Citizen Shipper blog, quote, finding a reliable dog transport service through web searches or local referrals can take hours or even days, and the results can be overwhelming, end quote. That's one reason the scammers, they'll take care of everything. They know how difficult the process is. But as Citizen Shipper blog further states, quote, pet shipping scams are becoming more common online, and it may be hard to decipher what sites and services are legitimate, end quote. Well, obviously, a fraudulent internet breeder can claim to be using one of these fraudulent shipping services. Duh! According to my research, these fraudulent puppy sellers will often claim they have shipped a dog and even produce a shipping invoice from a fraudulent shipping service. They will tell the buyer when and where to pick up the dog. There are many reports of people going to airports only to find out that the shipper and breeder were both scammed. Now, I just can't imagine that. I just can't imagine showing up at an airport hoping to get your puppy and expecting the puppy to be there, and you find out it was all a scam. Just imagine that. I can't even think what that would be like. We've had a girl shipped to us, and I'll tell you a little bit about that later as we go along. And I just can't imagine going to LAX when we picked her up and her not being there. I mean, that's the first thing we asked was, where is she? Can we see her? Well, she was stuck back behind some other boxes and things that were in the warehouse where she was shipped to. We couldn't see her, but we did have someone go and look and say, yes, she's there, and this is what she looks like. So at least we knew she was there, but I just can't imagine when we went there to find out that she wasn't there. That would have been terrible. This is why only using a major airline is important. When we shipped our dogs, we always knew both the flight number and the package number of their crate. Both numbers are easy to trace by using apps like FlightAware. On just my smartphone, I could see the full progress of the dog crate with a dog that we bought from a breeder we knew in Hungary. I could trace it from beginning to end. From the time she was dropped off by her breeder, we traced her to Russia, where she had an overnight layover in a special kennel facility that they have at the airport there. Then I traced her being loaded on a plane to Los Angeles the next morning. I was then able to monitor progress all the way across from Russia until she landed and was delivered to the airline's cargo facility in LAX. According to my research, another way scammers hide their identity and location information is by insisting on using a messaging service rather than using phone numbers. Just understand that this isn't always the case. Sometimes they'll actually use a phone number, but they'll use a phone number that's not traceable. They'll steal one someplace on the internet, which is easy to do. Just think of all the scammer calls that you receive from phones that can't be traced. According to some people, one way to avoid this problem and talk to the scammers or whoever it may be is to use a video call. Insist that they use FaceTime or some other form of video call where you can actually talk to them. Most of these scammers, of course, will refuse to do that because, first of all, they don't speak good English, and second of all, they certainly don't look like they're breeders, and they couldn't on the call show the puppies for you to see. But again, I'd never recommend that. I would never recommend getting a puppy from the internet. It's just something that's too risky. I always tell people they must meet the breeder at their kennel under all circumstances unless they actually know the breeder. This is also true of any rescue organization. Of course, when you're using the internet breeder or rescue organization, this may be impossible. They'll refuse to do it. First of all, seeing the facilities and related dogs is extremely important if you're talking to a breeder. If meeting them at their place of operation is not an option, the breeder or rescue organization is most likely hiding something. They don't want you to see that they don't have anything, or they don't want you to see the conditions of their puppies. Either way, something is really wrong, and that's a huge red flag. It's important to note that most reputable breeders will insist on people coming to their kennels, which is usually located at their homes. If a breeder doesn't, they should be considered highly suspect. When we had puppies, we required at least 2 visits. The first visit was when we decided if a family was good for our puppy, and the prospective buyer was able to decide for themselves if we had the right puppy for them. We turned down several prospective buyers at their first visit. In one case, the husband was all excited about getting a puppy. He had Basset hounds as a child, but when Pam sat down and talked to the wife about the necessary care for the puppy, she had no idea what was involved. She obviously wasn't prepared for the puppy and actually wasn't interested in getting one. The 2 children seemed even to be afraid of them. They were just 10-week-old puppies. I remember as soon as they left our home, we sat down and decided they weren't getting a puppy from us. One family decided that their children weren't ready for a dog and decided not to get one. Even though that family had visited us at dog shows after seeing them in our home situation, they realized they weren't ready for that. With us, puppies weren't sent home until the families at least had their second visit. If a breeder doesn't offer a visit to their facility, run the other way as quickly as you can. Rescue groups will do the same. In fact, the first meeting you might have with a rescue group is at your home. They'll do a home visit where someone representing the rescue group will actually come to your home, talk to you, and see your home and what it looks like and what your yard looks like, and ask you a bunch of questions before they'll even allow you to come to see the dogs. I'd be very leery of any rescue group that doesn't conduct a home visit and doesn't allow you to come to see the dogs at their facility. I've talked a lot about the expenses, but it's the how and when people are expected to pay that's often suspect. Scammers often require specific methods of payment. Most of them use methods of payment that are either not traceable and or non-refundable. These types of payment in today's world are far too numerous to mention, but here they include gift cards, cryptocurrency, requiring that buyers use a debit card and not a credit card, and more. There's many ways that you can send money these days. I find it interesting that many of the websites that caution people about these internet pet scams by breeders and rescue organizations are posted on the internet by financial institutions. Many banks and credit unions have created websites to warn their customers and others about these scams. They were a great resource for this episode. If you're not sure about making a payment for anything on the internet, consult the financial institutions that you use. They'll be happy to help you. Yes, it may cost you a little fee, but that's a whole lot better than losing a lot of money to a scammer. When payment is required is also something to consider. Often internet breeders, both legitimate and fraudulent, require a deposit. For me, this is a huge red flag. Often these deposits are required even before the litter is whelped. As someone who bred puppies, even with our modern medical technologies, I can say it's impossible to tell if a breeding will take. Even if a breeding is successful, the breeder never knows how many puppies they'll have until the puppies are several weeks old. I remember our co-breeder Heather being very upset when our 5-week-old puppy died in her hands. We never required a deposit, though we had a few buyers who insisted on giving us one after they selected a specific puppy that they wanted after visiting our home. Why anyone would pay a deposit for a puppy they haven't seen, or even worse, one that hasn't been born yet, I simply just don't understand. That doesn't make any sense to me and sure looks like a red flag to me. Since these scammers ask for a lot of money, they do offer what appears to be value for your money in the form of guarantees and warranties. The website I've been talking about has a 10-year health guarantee. That's what the large print says. According to the fine print, that guarantee states, quote, "In event of the death of a pet due to genetics after 10 years of birth, we will issue a credit in the amount of 70% of the original cost towards the purchase of a replacement puppy of equivalent value. The cause of death should be confirmed by a licensed veterinarian," end quote. Nowhere do they explain what that means. A statement like this is meaningless because it's impossible to prove the genetics was the cause of the death. By simply reading the guarantee, it's easy to spot the inconsistencies. One sentence says, quote, "Send us a copy of the examination medical record within 2 business days of receiving your pet. The examination must be performed by a licensed veterinarian," end quote. Then another states, quote, "We also require you to get the puppy examined by a licensed veterinarian within 10 days of receiving the puppy," end quote. Even if this guarantee was valid, it would be extremely difficult to get it honored by anyone. And certainly a scammer is not going to honor anything. You're not even going to get the puppy to start with. Another breeder I investigated offered a similar guarantee, but the fine print stated that it was null and void as soon as the puppy landed at its destination airport. Obviously, these guarantees aren't worth the space they take up on the page. It's also obvious that people don't read what they say. As someone who bred Bassets, I can say we did everything possible at the time of breeding to avoid health issues in our puppies. We also kept 1 or 2 puppies from the litters for showing and to continue our breeding program. The last thing we wanted was a high vet bills because we weren't careful with our breeding. I spent countless hours scouring pedigrees for possible problems, investigated and researched the latest information on health issues, and communicated with the owners of the sires that we bred our bitches to. Even after all that, guaranteeing the health of puppies was impossible. The very best we could do was offer a full refund to those who got one of our puppies and something happened to them. Fortunately for us, that never happened. If a breeder offers any health guarantee, it's important to read it fully and carefully. If it sounds too good to be true, you're most likely working with a fraudster or at least a non-reputable breeder. Another sign of a scam is that fraudulent breeders often don't ask many questions before they take a non-refundable deposit or buyers pay the full price. That's a huge red flag. You need to understand that any reputable breeder has put their life and soul into the breeding and raising a litter. They want to assure themselves that the home and family are the right one for the puppy, and the puppy will be properly cared for. They ask a lot of questions before making any commitment to a potential buyer, much less asking for money. Rescues do the same because the dogs they have already had a bad experience and they don't want them to have another one if at all possible. In fact, I think good rescue organizations get more information about families and homes than most breeders. The website of the Basset Hound Club of America has some excellent questions people should ask breeders or rescuers, as well as questions they should expect to answer. As I've mentioned before in this podcast, this website is an outstanding resource for our breed, and it's free to use. I highly recommend that everyone use it. Our own website, WOEBGONBassets.com, is also an outstanding resource on Basset Hounds, which is the reason we still pay to have it hosted on the internet. I'm always available to listeners who have questions as well. Some people out there that are looking for dogs on the internet use the AKC Marketplace to find breeders. On the website, they have badges denoting if a breeder meets specific criteria as described on the website. One of those is membership in the breed's national club, which in this case would be the Basset Hound Club of America. Just this week, I used the 2024 BHCA roster to double check and found that several people displaying the badges that said they were a member of the parent club are not listed in the current BHCA roster. That means that they're not current club members. Interesting. With all these badges, the AKC runs on the honesty of the person making the post. They are not checked by the AKC. People can and do lie about things and most often don't get caught. There are many other websites on the internet with lists of breeders, but the monitoring of these sites is highly questionable. It's possible for scammers to be listed on any of these internet breeder lists. The same can be said for any list of rescue organizations. There are many of them out there on the internet today. It's up to the puppy buyers or rescuers to do their due diligence when selecting a breeder or a rescue organization. Many of the operators of these websites listing breeders and rescue groups have codes of conduct, terms of use, and other requirements, but how well they enforce them, we don't know. It's highly questionable at times. This is true especially if they charge a fee for their service. Obviously, if the operator of a listing service will lose money for eliminating someone from their list, they may hesitate in doing it. It's also possible that some of these lists are created by scammers. There's nothing that can be done to keep that from happening. Another place where both rescue and breeder scammers congregate is social media sites. Now, I won't mention all of them by name. You know what I'm talking about. Early in the podcast, I stated that I'd mention a website, petscams.com, that lists alleged fraudulent breeder websites. First of all, I need to say that I have no first-hand information about this website, nor the person who maintains it on the internet. My only knowledge of the website is the fact that I found it while doing some search using Google, and I've heard parts of an interview of the website's owner on a news program that I found on YouTube. That news program is listed in the description for this episode, along with another one I thought should be included. Whether or not the information on this website is at all accurate is something I can't say because it would be impossible for me to do all the necessary research. I do, however, know that the website I've been using as an example for this episode for the podcast is listed on this website as a scam. When I last checked, it was listed along with 230 other websites that claim to be selling Basset Hounds. The website has 2,217 pages of alleged pet scamming websites, with 15 websites listed on each page. Yes, that's 33,000 websites according to my last check. This website does not list any rescue groups or scams on social media, however. They feel that that's totally out of their realm. They can't even mention all of those. The websites they mention are only breeder websites. As I said earlier, I provided information on finding a reputable and responsible breeder in episode 3, and I told listeners where to start looking for Basset Hound rescue groups in episode 9. No matter what you do, being careful and thoroughly investigating anyone you're considering getting a dog from is extremely important. As I mentioned, the website of the Basset Hound Club of America is a good resource, and I'm always here to answer questions as well. A great way to avoid a scam is education. A reputable breeder should know a lot of the things that I've already told you about Basset Hounds on this podcast. Remember, your best protection against breeder scams is knowing more about the breed than they do. The questions you ask could be the critical difference between being scammed and getting a puppy. For those who are more interested in rescue, I realize I'm sort of left you out in some spots. I have a lot more that I plan to include in a future episode that will be solely centered on the topic of rescue organizations and things to consider when you're thinking about rescuing a Basset Hound or any other dog. Wow, that's a lot of information. Hopefully some of it was very helpful for you. In my opinion, the bottom line here is that everyone needs to know about these internet scammers. Finding a dog, either a puppy or rescue, can be a highly emotional experience. People often get suckered into spending a lot of money to scammers as a result. My hope is that after listening to this podcast, you and I can help prevent someone else from being caught up in one of these scams. If you got anything useful from this episode, please give it a thumbs up on YouTube and a high rating wherever you listen to podcasts. Please share it as well. I highly recommend the YouTube version to all of you. In it, I was able to share specific things from the website that are impossible to include in the audio version. Sometimes seeing things is better than just hearing about them. My sincere apologies to my YouTube followers for not getting this episode out on schedule. Every time I did some research on the topic, I found more links to additional information. Because of all the information I discovered, the next episode of WOEBGON, the Basset Hound podcast, will continue on this topic. In it, I will be sharing specific ways these fraudsters pull people into their scams. I'll be sharing specific information on people who were scammed. Now, in the future, because of all the information that I've come up across, I will be doing a totally separate video about rescue groups and what goes on with them, some that are legitimate and some rescue groups that aren't legitimate, and what to look out for. So any of you that are really interested in rescue will want to watch that episode. I appreciate all of you, and thank you all very much for listening.
WOEBGON, the Basset Hound podcast is published in visual form on YouTube the first Monday of every month. A full-length audio version of each episode is published 1 week later wherever you listen to podcasts. Check out our WOEBGON Basset's website for show notes including photos from every episode. You can also find links to the podcast plus information on Don and his wife Pam plus their Basset Hounds. WOEBGON, the Basset Hound podcast is produced, researched and hosted by Don Bullock. The music is Do Your Ears Hang Low played by Nasrality from the Philippines. It's available royalty-free on Pixabay. Please give this podcast a thumbs up on YouTube and a high rating wherever you listen to podcasts.
Until next time, this is Don. Thank you very much for listening.